Hello, Rochester Community Schools, families, and students. I'm Mr. Phelps, and I'm so happy to be here today talking to you about reading, how important it is in my life, and how much I love it. To be honest with you, growing up, there were times where I didn't love reading. I didn't feel confident, and there were people in my life that helped motivate me. There were times where I felt nervous to read in front of my classmates. I thought people might laugh at me if I made a mistake. It took all the way to sixth grade before I really started to love reading. I remember my sixth grade teacher, Miss Strojek. She was actually my science teacher. She asked me one day, what was I reading? And I happened to have a book, and I told her all about it, and she was so interested. I remember her asking me questions about it. And this one moment in my life really changed me. It made me join the sixth grade book club. I remember we read a ton of books that year, and I've never looked back since. I love going into bookstores and discovering books that I didn't know existed before I entered the building. My favorite memories are from when I was a little boy and my dad would take me to the public library and he'd say, you can go choose whatever book you want. And I'd go and look for the perfect book and we would check it out and we would go home and I would curl up on his bed with him and he would read the story to me. So I thought today I'd love to read you a story, one of my favorites, uh, called Duck and Goose by Tad Hills. I don't know if you know this funny friendship here, but in this story, Duck and Goose are not really getting along and they find a way to become great friends. So let's find out what happens. Duck and Goose, written and illustrated by Tad Hills. Oh my, what is that? Duck quacked. That's a silly question, Goose honked. It is a big egg, of course. Of course it is an egg. I know that, huffed Duck. What I mean is, where did it come from? Goose looked skyward. He looked to the river. He looked to the fields. He thought very hard. Who are you? He asked finally. I, said Duck, puffing out his feathered chest, am the one whose egg this is. I saw it first. Goose raised one web foot. I touched it first. Hey, you should never put your dirty foot on an egg, Duck scolded. Don't you know anything about caring for eggs? Oh, yes, I do, Goose cried out. Stop yelling, Duck yelled, then whispered forcefully, don't you know that you and your screaming are very likely disturbing the baby egg who is trying to take a snooze inside this egg? Goose wished that Duck wasn't right. He lowered his head and whispered softly, I'm very sorry. Go back to sleep in there. My, that's quite a beauty you have, called a bluebird from across the river. Thank you, it's mine, quacked Duck. Actually, it's mine, honked Goose. Thank you. So, asked Duck, what do we do now? We should do something, suggested Goose. Yes, you are right. Good thinking, agreed Duck. Like what? Goose and Duck each thought. Well, we must keep the egg warm until the fuzzy little occupant is ready to come out, said Goose. Excellent idea. He pushed past Goose. Step aside, I shall do just right. But Goose was too quick. After a flurry of fussing, grunting and groaning, slipping and sliding, honking and quacking, Duck and Goose found themselves back to back. Scoot over. I don't have any room, complained Duck. You are much closer to me than I am to you. Stop yelling in my ear, Goose. Shh. Goose hushed, pointing at the round thing beneath them. Yes, yes, yes. We must remember, quiet, quiet, quiet. We mustn't disturb the little one. And so they sat very still and very quiet, waiting. For a long time they waited. They listened to the crickets chirp and the frogs burp. I'm going to teach this baby bird to quack like a duck, Duck boasted. Well, I'm going to teach it to honk like a goose, Goose honked back. I'm going to teach this baby bird to waddle, Goose added. So am I, Duck said. They heard the pitter-patter of the rain. I'm going to teach this baby bird to swim, Duck said. Me too, Goose said. To pass the time, they sniffed wild flowers in the warm sun and shared breadcrumbs while Goose taught Duck to honk. They watched the sunset in the sky, and Duck taught Goose to quack. They counted the stars in the night sky. Let's teach our baby to fly, said Goose. Good idea, said Duck. I'm sure our baby will be a fast learner, said Duck. If it takes after you and me, I'm sure you're right, agreed Goose. Together they waited until... Did you feel that, Duck? Duck nodded. Yes, did you feel that, Goose? Goose nodded. It's time, Goose. It's time, Duck squawked. Quickly, Duck slid down and started running in circles around their egg. What should we do now? He hollered. I think we should remain calm. Excuse me, a little voice called out. Duck stopped. In all of the exciting confusion, he had failed to notice the bluebird kicking their egg. Can I play too? She asked. Play? This is no time to play, yelled Duck. This is no time for games, yelled Goose. And what's with the kicking? I was only trying to get your attention, said the little bird. Well, you got it, Duck huffed. False alarm, Goose. Back to work. Can't you see that we're very busy here? Goose explained to the bluebird. This is serious business. This is perhaps the most important moment of our lives. Oh my, I am sorry, apologized the bluebird. I had no idea. I just thought maybe I could play with your ball. It really is a nice one, she added. And then she flew away. Goose gulped. Did she just say ball? He whispered to the duck. You know, I did have my doubts, Duck finally said. It is a bit squishier than most eggs I've seen. Yeah, and I must say I was somewhat suspicious of those big dots, Goose admitted. It may not be an egg, but it is lovely, said Duck. Oh, absolutely, Duck. Goose agreed. It's a keeper. As the crickets chirped, the frogs burped, and the grass swayed in a gentle breeze, Goose quacked, Duck honked, and the ball bounced, rolled, and sometimes even flew. Well, everybody, I hope you enjoyed that funny story. Funny stories are some of my favorite books to read, and I know during this month, you will find plenty of stories to keep you interested and increase your love for reading. Bye, everybody.